Welcome to Regulatory Ramblings. Our podcast today is brought to you by the University of Hong Kong's RegTech Lab, the HKU-SCF FinTech Academy, the Asia Global Institute, and the HKU edX Professional Certificate in FinTech, with support from the university's Faculty of Law. I'm your host, Ajay Shamdasani. Today's episode will focus on Hong Kong's new Protection of Critical Infrastructure Computer Systems Ordinance. Currently in bill form before the Territory's Legislative Council, it's expected to go into effect in January 2026. We'll speak first with Wendy Chow, Invest Hong Kong's head of digital technologies, as to how her group is raising awareness of the new forthcoming legislation locally. Following that, we'll chat with Nicky, Ensign InfoSecurity's General Manager of the Greater Bay Area, and Pierre Malgorn, iTracing's APAC Director, about preparing for the new law. But first, the Critical Infrastructure Computer Systems Ordinance seeks to safeguard computer systems of designated critical infrastructures, i.e. CIs, by creating a regulatory framework to boost cybersecurity and strengthen defenses against cyber threats. The ordinance is set to take place January 1st next year. Yet, who will be critical infrastructure providers? How are they deemed? Well, organizations crucial for delivering essential services of daily life, following 8 designated sectors, will be affected: air transport, banking and financial services, energy, healthcare, information technology, land transport, maritime, and telecommunications and broadcasting. Key highlights are that the ordinance requires organizations managing CIs in Hong Kong to follow strict cybersecurity regulations. Failure to meet the ordinance's obligations may result in fines ranging from $500,000 Hong Kong dollars to up to $5 million for ongoing offenses. An additional daily fine could be assessed of $50,000 to $100,000 Hong Kong dollars, and that may be imposed for each day the offense persists. Penalties target the organization as a whole, not senior management individually. However, individuals may be personally liable for crimes like providing false information or fraud. And now we turn to Wendy Chow of Invest Hong Kong to get a sense of what the bill will mean in practical terms. Wendy is based in Hong Kong and has been with Invest Hong Kong for almost a quarter of a century in various roles. She's currently its head of digital technologies and data infrastructure, specializing in providing bespoke guidance and hands-on facilitation services to spearhead the establishment and growth of mainland Chinese and overseas tech businesses in Hong Kong and in regional markets. She's also an HKU alum, holding a BA from the university, as well as a master's of social science degree in mental health, and an MBA. She also has a Master of Arts degree from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst from the US. And with that, Wendy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Wendy, why does the Protection of Critical Infrastructures Computer Systems Ordinance matter for Hong Kong's business environment?
I think we should see it as a proactive measure for us to maintain or to further strengthen our position as an international financial hub, shipping hub, as well as trading hub. Now, we all understand that, this will apply to 8 sectors, namely, just like our host has mentioned. It covers energy, information technology, banking and financial services, land transport, air transport, maritime transport, healthcare services, as well as telecommunications and broadcasting services. We call this designated sector. Now, we all know that now we are living in a digital era. So we have to ensure that as a cosmopolitan city, we have to ensure that the functioning of the city has to be continuous, no disruption. And nowadays, we understand the cyber attack. I think this September, some of us should remember the disruption that has caused to the major cities' airport in Europe, including Heathrow. So people simply could not get on the plane. So you can see that it is really important that we have to put in place the critical infrastructure being well protected, and I'm sure that they will be operating always up and running 24/7. Now, in the past, we always rely on the voluntary act of the major service provider because, they have been doing very well in terms of putting in place the best practice. Now, this is very good, but we want to be even more proactive is to create a very robust and clearly guided legal framework. So it is more than best practice. So I think that is a very good starting point. And also to ensure that our city will be always up and running 24/7.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I'd like to turn more to Invest Hong Kong and its role in helping the business community understand and adapt to the new ordinance. I mean, we're used to thinking of Invest Hong Kong as wanting to draw businesses to Hong Kong, and again, more recently, I believe you're doing more in the way of, uh, you know, cultivating startups in Hong Kong. Uh, Tell us about what you're doing to help the business community adapt to the ordinance, but also, is this an expansion of Invest Hong Kong's role?
Well, we always support overseas as well as mainland companies to set up in Hong Kong. Well, it doesn't matter whether you are Fortune 500 or a startup because we always say that HP started with 2 people, Google maybe 2 or 3. So any startup will become a scale and then sooner or later they will become, some of them, not everyone, okay, they will become a multinational. Well, so that's why we support all companies of all size. And then our support is very much like, first of all, information sharing. Now, although information in Hong Kong, we are very transparent, but I think we save the executives a lot of time instead of they have to do Google search and so on, so they can come to us, and then we are a government department, so we have the integrity and also they can trust us, and then they don't have to pay anything for the information that we provide. And we provide them with impartial and update information, whether it is about the market landscape or the government regulatory regime or any government support schemes and so on. So it is more like a twofold approach. We are proactive as well as reactive. So we always travel around the world to visit companies in different cities and share with them the update of what Hong Kong is doing and then what business opportunities we can provide them with. We are also reactive in the sense that we've got offices in 34 points of presence of the world, and then they will also reach out to the others, and we also do advertising, and then we organize a lot of events, and then we also have our very simple system, email system, okay? It sounds a little bit old school, but we do have the email system where our potential client can just drop us an email, and we will get back to them as soon as possible.
With a situation like this, there's a technical side, there's an operational side, there's a legal and regulatory compliance side, but there's also a manpower, know-how, and talent aspect to this. And I guess what I'm wondering is there enough cybersecurity infrastructure support locally within the city? I mean, what's the strategy to get more talent and firms? Because clearly this is a potential employment generator.
Well, I think right now we have some of the very best cybersecurity companies in Hong Kong, including 2 of the guests, just sitting beside me. But then as cybersecurity, because nowadays it's all about monetary consideration. In the past, maybe some people think that, well, I want to prove myself to be very smart, so I try to hack into some corporate site. But now, no. The scenario is completely different. It's all about monetary gain. So they want to get money by hacking into corporate websites and so on. So there will be new companies coming up, new approach to sort of combat cybersecurity. And especially now we've got the AI element, which I think our guests over here, they will share with you more because, they are in the field. So there will be new companies, new technologies. So apart from taking good care of our existing client, we will also go out and then tell the story about what Hong Kong needs so that we can attract new cybersecurity companies to set up in Hong Kong.
Okay. And, Hong Kong is an international hub. So for the multinationals operating across Asia, the regulatory landscape can be very complex because different jurisdictions have different rules. How does the new ordinance strengthen Hong Kong's position as a secure and reliable hub for international business? Can we can we use it to promote ourselves in that regard?
I think you are right when you describe Hong Kong as a secure and reliable hub. We are already a secure and reliable hub, but then we just want to be more proactive to enhance our position as a secure and reliable hub. So that's why we put in place this Protection of Critical Infrastructure Ordinance to make it even better for everybody. Now, to start with, I think most of the other countries, they have already put in place this legal framework. So what we have done is that we try to align with the international standard. So therefore, multinational companies, they can feel very comfortable. The standard that they have put in place is very much similar to what Hong Kong that we will put in place effective January the 1st. So it is sort of everything is in alignment. So for example, when the MNC multinational companies operate in Hong Kong, I think in the past they have already been corresponding with their overseas headquarters and so on to ensure that the cybersecurity measures that they have put in place align with their regional headquarters. But now we just want to make it more official. So it is a legal framework. So I think with this ordinance being enforced, multinational companies or even, SME and so on, because, we can see that, well, there is always the weakest link. Even if the MNC are doing very well, if the third-party suppliers are not doing so well, there are still vulnerabilities. So we want to do more promotion and then branding and also rely on the MNC to sort of ensure that they comply with our ordinance and ensure that the supplier also comply with it so that there is no such thing as the weakest link. So I think with this new ordinance being put in place, companies, whether they're big or small, they can feel very comfortable that Hong Kong will be always up and running 24/7.
I think you're much more tech savvy than myself. Can you comment on any of the technical challenges associated with implementation of the bill?
As I mentioned, now for the MNC, I think they've got the big teams, they've got very good service vendor, they've got the big consulting firm which can provide them with consultancy services to ensure that they put in place the framework. But then, and they will also offer services like security risk assessment, security audit, and so on. But at the end of the day, I think the greatest challenge actually is not technology. The greatest challenge is always people. Actually, people is the weakest link. I remember that right now, probably the most prominent cybersecurity threat is phishing. We may think that phishing, it sounds so low tech. It sounds for everybody knows about it. But believe it or not, some people will still click the link, and then they will provide the loophole through which the hacker can get in. So I think it's not just to put in place the technology, but also education awareness. And I trust that the service provider will also provide that kind of service to their client, is to educate them, make them be aware that even for something as, we think it is, phishing, old style, it works.
Yes, and it seems to be the case that no matter how much training you give your customers or your staff, there will always be breaches. There will always be phishing attempts, and that I guess that's just how it goes. You have to prepare as best you can. In the time we've got left, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience? Any closing thoughts?
I would say awareness and education is very important. Yeah, just have to make sure that not just the MNC or not just, people working as CIO and so on, be aware of cyber attack and the cyber threat. But then we have to, as a responsible government, we also have to ensure that our citizens are aware of that, because, that kind of cyber crime can happen anywhere and at any level.
Okay, well, I guess we'll leave it there then. Wendy Chow, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. And we're back. We're continuing our conversation on Hong Kong's new Protection of Critical Infrastructures Computer Systems Ordinance with Nicky Chow of Ensign InvestSecurity and Pierre Malgorn of iTracing. Based in Hong Kong, Nicky is Ensign's general manager for the Greater Bay Area. He's a graduate of the City University of Hong Kong, where he earned his bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on information systems. And Pierre is also based in Hong Kong and is the Asia Pacific Director for iTracing. He holds an engineer's degree in IT technologies from the EPF Engineering School in Cachan, France. And with that, I first turn to Nicky. Nicky, how will the ordinance affect the firms that you're dealing with, and how are you helping them prepare for its rollout?
Okay, thanks for having me today. So this is a great question because the protection of CII ordinance is a big thing in Hong Kong. I guess everyone in the market already knows about it. So even before the announce of the CII ordinance, NSI has been doing as a defender to help all the enterprises and companies in Hong Kong to deal with all kind of security threats. Including the most famous one, I guess, top of the list, ransomware, insider threats, etc. So apart from that, because of the CII rollout, and then NSI will going to invest even heavily in Hong Kong. So one of the major reasons is that, as Invest Hong Kong Wendy already mentioned, Hong Kong as an international hub it provides a great ecosystem for anyone to invest, including we have a lot of talents here. So that's why as a defenders, instead of sitting here as a reactive mode, we always need to adopt the attacker's mindset. For example, we will invest heavily to attract more red teamers or pen tester in my region in order to help them to simulate all kind of real world attack. Like I always give some talk in some university, I will collaborate with some university for some programs in order to train them to be effort hackers. So that's why we will hold something like cyber range environment and capture the fact competition as well to grow the market as well as train the talents in the region as well.
Nicky, how would you rate the awareness amongst your clients of the bill? Are they ready? Are they fearful? Are they, oblivious? What's the state of recognition and awareness?
The news have been, the CII ordinance have been in discussion for not only this year, but last year already. So it raised, if I remember correctly, it raised more than 15 engagement consultation in the vertical industries. So that's why it's, as I mentioned, it's a big thing and everyone knows about it because there's news all over every day. So what we help them is one of the major components in the critical infrastructure ordinance is about how fast can we respond and then how fast can we report to the related authority if there's really an incident happened. So that's why what we help our clients to prepare is to review their incident response playbook so that when there is a crisis really happened, how can we respond within the window that suggested by the audience itself. We also help them to do all kind of simulation, crisis management simulation. We help them to do annual risk assessment as well as gap analysis as well. So that's why for my company, NSI Info Security, annually we hold some kind of tabletop exercise day to give some free training to all the enterprise executive or C-level in order to get prepared. And then for this year, just happened in July, we also include the information from the CII ordinance so that it makes the incidents simulation to be more related to the ordinance.
That is important. Pierre, could you tell us about the implementation challenges and experiences of your clients? I mean, what have you noticed?
Yep. So thank you for having me first. I'm very honored to be here today talking in your podcast, actually. So yeah, regarding first, I want to come back on the awareness actually of the customers because everyone is aware that, as Nicky said, actually, that's been a long time that we are talking about that. There is several events around cybersecurity in Hong Kong. Everyone is talking about that. Similar to what we hear about AI, actually, everyone hears about CNI since a few years now. So everyone is aware, but actually, most of them are quite blurry on the fact that to know actually if that applies to them or not. And also to see if there is any gap actually in terms of a measure they already have taken. What we can observe is that most of the critical infrastructure are already equipped with most of the requirements that we see in the bill. Actually, that's a good sign actually for Hong Kong to see that kind of regulation that comes and will be enforced next year are actually quite already mature in the Hong Kong market. So on our point of view, actually, we provide some pragmatic advisory services, actually combining our GRC expertise with technical implementation. So the idea is to provide some advisory on the implementation of it, ensuring full compliance at the end to be ready for next year without overwhelming the internal teams. But yeah, actually that's interesting because the challenge is actually implementing that kind of requirements are usually not that difficult given the fact that they are already most of them are equipped, even if there is some specific adjustment to do on the actual bill that will be implemented. And the interesting thing also is that it's also constantly evolving. Like we have seen some adjustment along this year before the implementation. So it's also a moving area actually, where we try to understand more. The more time goes, the more it's changing for our customers.
Okay, and Nicky, I'd like to turn to the ordinance's definition, and it defines quote unquote critical infrastructure in a very broad way. I mean, certainly when I first read it, it seemed rather expansive. I mean, how do you help a company determine if that definition applies to them, and what practical first steps would you recommend?
I will say that for the ordinance, if you read the articles, it talks about there are 8 industries that to be governed. For example, the power, the banking and finance, and then the land transport, water transport, and then hospital as well. But having said that, if you ask me, I can foresee that the government are going to extend the regulation not only to these 8 industries, but also to others industry which can be representing Hong Kong, like some sports stadium, as well as some kind of science parks in Hong Kong. So I may say that this CII ordinance will be just a starter, and then they will evolve over years in order to include more vertical industry in this ordinance. Why I say that? Because before this ordinance, different sector regulators, for example, Hong Kong MA, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, or SFC, in Hong Kong, they already have some kind of sector-specific regulations for their own clients in order to fulfill some kind of standards in cybersecurity. So I can say that the protection of the CII ordinance actually is a big step to govern more than that. So for the definition that I just mentioned, I can see that it will become broader and broader. But as it already comes out that there are specific 8 industry already to be governed, so that means that they will already know about it. And then about the questions that related to the practical first step, I can recommend them is when the CII ordinance discussion first comes out, a lot of my clients comes to me in a panic to, ask me what kind of best practice or what kind of controls they would like Ensign InfoSecurity to help them to implement in order to deal with the loss. But if you ask me, we need to run a risk-based approach. What I'm talking about the risk-based approach is the customer themselves, they need to know to prioritize their risks. Although the ordinance already gives a framework to help them to structure, because fail to do so, you need to pay the penalty up to 5 million Hong Kong dollars. So because of this fine, every customer needs to balance whether the business is really related to the security incidents that will happen, which I just mentioned about, like ransomware, insider threat, or supply chain attack. So they need to know whether the security control which already implemented in their environment already good enough to deal with this kind of stuff. So my first step is to know about yourself, know about your environment. So to instead of being panicked, to apply a lot of budget to do whatever controls you can, just stay calm and then review first, and then you will know where you are going to do. Yeah.
Pierre, any practical advice you'd offer firms before they begin?
Yeah, I would say that coming from the risk perspective, as Nicky said, is quite the good approach actually, because the ordinance can be quite broad on certain terms actually. So the time will tell also. We are implementing that bill currently. It didn't come actually right now into enforcement state. So time will tell also on what will be the outcome of it and what will be the requirement, the specific requirements. As far as we see now, it's quite satisfactory. There is some gap to fill, but yeah, taking that from a risk approach point of view, it's a good way to go.
The ordinance, it should be noted, it's not without its sanctions. It has teeth. For example, it introduces financial penalties, which I mentioned on the front end, and I guess what I'm wondering is, given the fines, how is this changing the conversation at the board level for both of you? Nicky, you first. How is this changing the conversation at the board level? And I guess, is cybersecurity finally being elevated to the level it needs to be and finally being seen as a core business risk?
If you ask me, the financial penalties in the ordinance is just one of the measurement metrics for all the board to visualize the cybersecurity risks. But if you ask me, this is not the major reason they need to take cybersecurity seriously, because 5 million to most of the companies, some of them, they may think there's a lot, but to some of the companies, just the amount is not that huge. So in return, it's more like legal liability for the board of directors. So when we talk about the security regulations, most of the time is talking about control and trust. It's talking about due diligence and due care. So what really affects the companies are the reputation lost. It's not about the monetary loss. So when we look at the business risks, most of the corporation needs to take care. It has to be a top-down approach. That means when there is a cybersecurity incident happen, it's no longer just the liability of your CISO or the cybersecurity security team. It's actually the responsibility of the whole company, including the board of directors, the CEO, or every employees by themselves as well. Because I always say that human is always the weakest link in the cybersecurity. That's why we always ask different kind of companies, from SME or even to enterprises. They need to carry out cybersecurity awareness training every year in order to train the staff to aware of how to taking care of their own cybersecurity within the company. Yeah, that's my opinion.
It's interesting because, I mean that's an enlightened way of looking at it. It's an interdisciplinary problem. It affects the organization in its entirety, therefore it's everyone's responsibility. So no one is too big or too small in the organization to pay heed to it and do their part. What about you, Pierre? I mean, is this has cybersecurity finally arrived in terms of serious board of director level problems? I mean, are they treating it like a core business risk and giving it the due attention they deserve? Because even that I find it varies amongst firms and industries. So there's no way to say that this industry is better than that, or this firm is better. I mean, there's a great deal of variance. Okay, some industries maybe because they have more scrutiny are better at complying on this end. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we actually in eye tracing we support critical infrastructure operators since years in France and in the UK, so we can have a point of comparison actually that makes the thing interesting. We support airports, banks, government agencies in meeting those similar regulatory obligations actually, and we have seen that of course since 7 years we are here, we have seen that the Hong Kong environment, let's say, around that was quite weak in terms of regulations around cybersecurity. Before this one, it was difficult to see anything actually regarding any financial penalties or any really enforcing policies for Hong Kong company. So when you say it finally arrived in Hong Kong, I fully agree with you actually. It needed to come and now it's here. So it's a very good news for the community and for the people also in Hong Kong who actually has all of their data to the different database in those Hong Kong companies basically. So it's good for the business, it's good for the people. And about the financial penalties, for me it's a very important thing actually, even if it can be seen as quite low for certain big corporations. But actually, this is something very important to push for those changes. Financial penalties are obviously raising awareness. Change takes time still. We need some time to raise that to the board level. So everyone, actually all of the CISO out there are trying to provide some board level briefings and trying to engage with some cybersecurity professionals to bring that to their board. I will say that it's starting to treat cybersecurity as a strategic risk. It's mostly happening in regulated sectors today. So Nicky mentioned about the reputation impact. That's obviously important, but to be honest, as we can see, that's an important point, not to have your names and your company name on the headlines, but at the end, actually, what we observe is that.
But do they really care about reputational loss? Because it doesn't seem like they do at this point. All the banks have been breached, and if there are fines, if there are sanctions, if there's admonishment from the regulators or the government, law enforcement, the attitude seems to be okay, fine, that's just another cost of doing business.
Yeah, but that's my point. Actually, reputation impact can be quite low. Actually, also, I mean, we are all consumers. You know, we have seen these last months and years that there is some leaks of different data. Actually, seems like everyone is continuing to consume goods, like no one cares about their data being in the wild and leaked. So I mean, I care, people care, but the large majority of the end consumers don't really care yet, I would say. So that's an interesting point, is that if we just rely on reputation impact, then it's not efficient enough. That's why financial penalties matters. So it needs to start somewhere at some point, and it's starting now. And it probably needs to be pushed even further, like we have, for example, in Europe, which are way more strict actually in this regard. So yeah, reputation impact, not enough. Financial penalties needs to be pushed more.
Looking ahead at emerging threats like AI-powered attacks, how are such new technologies altering the threat landscape for your clients, and how do you advise them to build genuine security that goes beyond, again, just the mere perfunctory compliance box, what the law or what the regulator requires you to do, which is the floor, it's the bare minimum, it's not the ceiling. Of course, if you got the more you ratchet it up, the more there's expense, there's cost, and you will have to justify those costs to the person who controls the purse strings in your organization. So with that in mind, what do you think, Nicky? How do they go about that?
When you talk about AI nowadays, it already moves above just compliance or just governance. The main changes that you observe is, for example, the adversarial AI. They make use of it. The hackers make use of it already to try to fasten how they create a malware or even launch some kind of sophisticated attack. So when we talk about in the commercial world, sometimes it's not about the monetary loss. I can raise some examples happened in Hong Kong, for example. Like last year, there was a massive romance deepfake scam. So what they did is there's a group of people, they try to mimic or even deepfake an identity, which is very successful, attractive, and then they study a lot of the backgrounds of the victims, and then they talk to them. Over the years, they build a trust. Eventually, they ask them or they lure them to invest in the cryptocurrency platform, and then collectively, all the victims got a monetary loss of US 40-something million. But I raised this example is when the news comes out, when the victims being interviewed, the major impact is not only on the monetary loss, but also of the emotional and psychological damage over the years, because they realize that who they trust and then who they talk to for the whole year actually is a different figures. Of course, back to the commercial world, we can see some examples that because of the COVID, everyone is already get used to the remote working environment or even remote coordination. Some of the interviews for recruiting, we may just through like some social media tools, or even through some kind of like Microsoft Teams, WebEx. And then some of the cybersecurity incidents happen is that after a year of staff onboarding, the company realized that this is deepfake figures from the hackers instead of the real person with the real CV by himself. So even in the banking and finance industry, when we borrow money for the financial institution now, we no longer need to go on site. Sometimes we just need to verify through remote engagement. So you can see that all kind of this kind of AI-powered attack already reshaping the threat landscape instead of just impacting it. So if you ask me, by just taking a compliance spot is no longer good enough to tackle this kind of attack. Yeah.
Pierre, so what are your thoughts on AI? I mean, it poses many opportunities, but also there are looming threats. And I guess, again, how does one engender a client? How does one impress upon them the need to build genuine security, dealing with practical and likely recurring threats, rather than just the pedestrian, pedantic, but perfunctory this is what the regulators require me to do from a compliance standpoint, and I'm not going to do any more than that because it's more effort, more trouble, more cost. How do you impress that upon a client? And beyond that, secondary question, is AI such a game changer that it is above and beyond what compliance can handle?
Well, in terms of compliance, I would say it's the starting point. I mean, no one can actually write anything on that yet. Like, no one understands it clearly today in the field of the regulators. I would say to be able to impose any compliance requirement on this. So usually the requirements for the compliance are quite simple and straightforward, and it's constantly evolving. Like every day we have new uses, we have new tools. It's constantly evolving on a daily basis, so very difficult on a regulation point of view. For cybersecurity, but also for other aspects. I mean, we can see that today, that everything is constantly evolving. So, but in cybersecurity, I would say AI is both a threat and a tool. Why do I say that? Because on the threat perspective, of course, attackers are using it to scale and automate breaches. Actually, before you had like one hacker behind his computer trying to enter into one system at a time. So even with the greatest skills on earth, it took time actually to try to breach into the system and systems. Today they use AI to scale the attacks. It makes the attacks way more fast actually than ever. So it's a threat because of that, because the attacks are not that much more advanced, but they are more fast. So it poses some issues for the defenders actually, for the ones who are monitoring the thing. But it can also be a tool actually. We use AI in eye tracing for detection and response, for example. So we need to evolve roughly at the same pace as the attacker is evolving as well. So if the attackers are using AI to scale their attacks, we need to use AI to scale our response actually. So that's changing the industry, that's right, because it's becoming faster and faster. There is also an aspect to take into account for our listeners is probably the monitoring actually of the AI usage, because more and more people are actually using AI, not for cybersecurity purposes at all, but for their business. And actually the usage of all of those AI engines around, which is a lot actually, needs to be taken care of actually. So compliance is just a baseline for me. Real security requires agility, visibility, and proactive threat hunting to see like what's happening actually, who is leveraging on this kind of tools.
Your point about speed, Pierre, I think is key in that if you're unable to respond in real time to, I don't know, direct denial of service attack, I mean, happening in real time, that obviously you're not serving your customers, your depositors, your shareholders, but it prompts an awkward question with the regulators after the fact of, well, why weren't you able to respond in real time? You know, that capacity is now expected. That I don't think that they can take short shrift, or major organizations can take short shrift with not having the latest, the state-of-the-art technology to fight back against cyber criminals. In fact, this segues nicely into my next question, which is that say there's a major cyber incident, again, a DDoS attack against a major bank, and I think by this point most of the world's major banks have been breached to some degree. Naturally, the authorities will get involved. So in a situation like that, how do you prepare clients to manage the crisis communications and interact with regulators? I mean, what is a key do or don't in that situation? Nicky.
I will start answering this question by a short suggestion is do prepare and don't be panicked when it really happens. Inside Security, we did a lot of this kind of crisis management workshop. Just like in August this year, we collaborate with the Singapore Institute of Directors to do this kind of workshop for the board of directors in Singapore. So in the workshop, usually we divide it into peacetime and wartime. So peacetime by definition is before the incidents really happened, what we need to get prepared. And then wartime.
That's right. The saying is if you want peace of mind in war, sweat during peace.
Yeah, yes. So we need to get prepared in the peacetime. So when we talk about the wartime is when the incidents really happened, what are we going to do about it? So recently, I also watched a movie about cyber attack. So when the attack really happens, usually people, what they already trained for years, they forgot everything because you will be in a mess and then you will be very nervous during the incident's time. So
right, because no plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Yeah, and then usually you need to respond very quickly to the incidents as well. For example, ransomware. So like they need you to decide whether you need to pay the ransom within 1 hour, and then you need to contact with your own company like CEO, CFO to make a decision, and then you need to talk to the related authorities locally in your region to decide whether you need to pay for the ransom or not. So that's what we do in the workshop, and then we help them to build all kinds of playbooks to simulate all kinds of attacks. So whenever the real attack really happens, they can at least have a playbook to follow through, so that even during the panic time, they can do things right. Yeah.
Okay, Pierre. I mean, again, cyber incidents have happened. They will happen. I mean, it's not. It's just a matter of when. In that instance, I think it's very important, kind of like how the Obama administration passed down a pandemic response plan to the Trump administration, which the latter did not use. It's important to have a game plan ready for when such incidents do occur. And I guess what I'm wondering is if you were to put it in a checklist form, any key things you would add to that in terms of what they should or shouldn't do, or what they should consider. I mean, you prepare as best you can, but obviously there are certain things that will not occur to you until the crisis in front of you. Now that in and of itself may not be a bad thing, so long as you readjust your response plan and learn from it. But I'd be keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so preparation is key, of course. I mean, if you come unprepared, then that could lead to some real serious issues, actually. But preparation, there is both.
I mean, a checklist is essential. Manuals are essential, but that's not the only thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that the key, also one key very important in that kind of situation is communication. And communication is not usually, I mean, it's on playbooks because we have a framework around communication that we need to follow.
You mean internally or externally with external stakeholders?
Both, actually, with everyone involved into this. It can be internally with the CEO, CFO, whatever. Can also be external with authorities. Can also be external with the attacker themselves. Actually, that's quite common that we need to communicate to all of these parties at the same time when an incident happens. And depending of the context, actually, that makes makes the thing different. So that's why the preparation is key, but it's very difficult to prepare all of the scenario that will come, to be honest, and that usually comes with experience also on the field. So preparation is important. Companies need to prepare in advance, but when this comes, depending of the severity of the attack and the severity of the breach, the companies needs to be accompanied. Actually, that's a very important point when it comes to large amount of money required by attackers. When the data leak can be very serious, actually, the only response is to be accompanied in this kind of scenario, because in that particular moment, if you have no one internally that's used to this kind of issues, then communication will be bad, technical response will be bad, and it will be worse than at the very beginning. So when it comes to a major incident, major cybersecurity incidents, depending of the stakes involved, probably it requires some external help.
My own view is that and some people say when it comes to crisis management, or crisis containment, some say you can't really manage the situation, you can only contain it. The other point is, though, that from what I've seen, the PR industry gets a lot of flack, but the elite of the elite of PR people who are in lobbying and crisis communications, particularly in crisis communications, the best of the best, they really earn their worth, because in some cases they can help you turn a positive and a negative into a positive, or at the very least help dial down some of the animosity and the negative press that comes from a cybersecurity breach. I would also say firms need to invest in outside experts, but again, that can be difficult given that there's too many PR firms these days, too many such firms offering what they claim are crisis management services. In the time we've got left, any closing thoughts, any last impressions you'd like to leave our audience with? Nicky?
So I will say that the protection of the critical infrastructure ordinance is going to be effective next year, January 1st. I know most of the companies or the audience already getting prepared, and as I always mention, it's not a one-time thing. The audience will, the CII law will always be changing, and then as well as the cybersecurity threat as well. So we need to be aware on the security landscape, specifically in Hong Kong, or in other parts of the countries that the audience will operate in, instead of just fulfilling one critical CII ordinance. That's my suggestion. Yeah.
Pierre?
Time will tell actually where we're gonna go. That's very important to prepare, of course, before the 1st of January. But I think not everyone will be ready at this state. So of course we will have some work next year, work to do on the customer side, but also on our side. Actually, we are working quite hard internally to review the inner details of the bill. We are working quite hard also with our customers to understand their situation and how we can respond. Let's work hard on that to prepare for it incoming. We have probably a lot of challenges to address in the next coming months. So
I guess watch this space, prepare for the future, but don't borrow trouble from the future by worrying unduly. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you. Until next time.